Now to the flip side of our last video, we talked about the most impressive wins in week one. Let's talk about the biggest disappointments. To me personally, Falcons and Steelers, that was, thank God for red zone, right? Because there's a lot of interesting football being played in that early window. Um, I didn't expect the Falcons to come out like this year. I know they got Kirk Cousins, they got this guy and that guy offensively, getting Arthur Smith out of there so they would actually use some of their offensive weapons, blah, blah, blah. And now he obviously comes back and coaches his first game over there in Pittsburgh against the Falcons. I didn't expect them to come out and like throw for 500 yards. Bijan go out there and have 300 touchdowns, 300 yards. Doesn't matter. Like I didn't expect that, but good guy. I mean, they straight up got beat by Chris Boswell, who's a really good kicker. Don't get me wrong, but they got beat by Chris Boswell. No defensive scores, even though the defense was all over the place. Thank God I had him in fantasy. T.J. Watt leading that defense over there, but no defensive scores there. No offensive scores. All special teams. 6 field goals, 18-10. I mean, the Steelers. I have to, in this era of Steeler football, I have to give them credit because they always seem to force their opponents to play down in the dumps. I give them credit. Like if the Steelers have no offense, their opponents will have no offense. So look, if the Steelers, hopefully one day they'll be able to match offense and defense because it seems like for the past 15 years it's either been off great offense and bad defense or vice versa as we have now. But I'm more disappointed, in the Falcons the way they came out. But the biggest disappointment this entire weekend, you could have even brought up some from the last segment. What in the world were the Browns doing yesterday? And now I decided to not watch Red Zone. I wanted to watch this entire game, front to back, the whole thing, because I figured we would end up talking about it. And Jesus Christ, I mean, look, Browns O-line couldn't block. All right, Browns running backs. I know Nick Chubb's been out, but he was out all of last year anyway. Couldn't run. Deshaun Watson. There's a lot being said about Deshaun Watson, on the field, off the field, all in between. Yeah, I mean he was bad. I mean he was overthrowing some guys. Had some touchdowns that he could have had some big plays he could have had. And it was overthrown. I mean his receivers were dropping balls too. I mean Njoku, he ended up getting hurt too. Like
yeah.
Browns. I apologize, Cowboys. I picked against you in this one. Browns absolutely disappointed me. I mean, even if they lost, the way they came out and played in this one, outside of like that one early drive, garbage.
Yeah, congrats to the Cowboys. I picked them, but I did think it would be a close game. I thought, there was room for the Cowboys to lose this one. Apparently, the Browns players did not also think that. I could not tell you what was going on in Cleveland, aside from that the Cowboys took over. Obviously, we know that CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott just got big paychecks, and of course, because they're Cowboys players, the league is immediately going to go, all right, well, these guys don't deserve it. I don't entirely think that Dak should be the highest paid player in history, but it does put on the at least pressure really to have a good season, but especially have a good game right now, or you're done. Like it's over for you for the rest of the season. Like your Twitter is not going to have that. And they play well. They do really good. Brandon Cooks does good. Hauls in a 22-yard or 21-yard touchdown pretty early in the game. Zeke returns to Dallas and plays well. Gets himself a touchdown. Led the Cowboys in rushing. The Dallas defense swallowed up the Browns. They picked off Deshaun Watson 2 times. Both of the QBs in this game fumbled, but their offenses picked it up, so it doesn't really matter. And then Brandon Aubrey, who you also have in fantasy, puts up 21 fantasy points. Just nails field goal after field goal, sinks the Browns. I mean, the Cowboys score touchdowns in this game. They scored. You don't get 33 points to no touchdown. I mean, maybe you could, but I don't think so. Yeah, you could actually, but that'd be a horrendous game. But they score touchdowns. But Brandon Aubrey, whenever they're not scoring touchdowns, he's still making the drive count. And they put the Browns in a hole early on, and it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, and nothing goes well for the Browns. Deshaun looked pretty horrible aside from connecting with Jerry Jeudy late in the game to make it 10 points, and then Jerome Ford runs in like genuinely at the end of the game to make it 33-17 instead of 33-10. Congratulations, Cleveland.
What they do?
Yeah, it's, I don't have anything against Jerome Ford, but but that one doesn't matter. Like I mean, it'll count. He's got a touchdown for the season. Um, yeah, they couldn't stop anything. I'm not entirely sure if it's like panic time, but it looks with David Njoku getting hurt and all that going wrong. The Cowboys are a bad. It's a hard first matchup. But you guys are favored in this one. Like the world is expecting you to handle business here, and you don't do anything close to it. So definitely the biggest disappointment this week for me would be uh, the Browns. I think being favored so heavily and losing that badly is pretty up there. Falcons and Steelers is like, yeah, Falcons probably should have won this game. And I've talked a lot. I've joked a lot about Mike Tomlin having some sort of like dark magic deal to always end up with at least a positive record. He's never had a losing record. But maybe now that you talk about it, maybe that deal like, also extends to just like ruining the play style of the other team. Um, if the Steelers are going to come out and not play with any offense, then neither are their opponent. If the Steelers are going to come out and get ran all over on defense, then that's what's going to happen to their opponent. I'm not really sure what Mike Tomlin does. Um, I mean, he's a good coach, so don't take it that way. But I'm not sure what goes on in the locker room before games start. But he's got some sort of like dark power. Like it's like I think he's we don't need to investigate, but like I think we got to acknowledge that like constantly having a winning season with the rosters he's had, and being able to just like control the pace of the game no matter what happens. Maybe that just speaks to he's a really good coach, whether they win or lose. But man, this one is impressive. All field goals. TJ Watt tears up the Falcons, as you said. Had some fumbles that he got that were overturned because somebody else was holding, which I'm sure is annoying for TJ Watt, or other penalties I think were called. But Falcons, I don't know. Maybe not entirely time to panic. This is a really tough first matchup for a team that's trying to gel with a quarterback whose leg was broken, and Arthur Smith is a good coordinator. For him to come back against the Falcons on that side of the ball, not being the head coach, it's a tough one. So I don't know if the Falcons are the biggest disappointment, but that one is certainly a disappointing game. And now,
Yeah,
two Panthers fans.
yeah. This nah. I didn't want. I told you I didn't want to talk about this, but we got to do it.
Yeah, it's got to be on there. I'll let you take over in just a second here. I gotta say, this might be the worst score all week, and so you might think, well, geez, why isn't this the biggest disappointment of the week? The Browns were supposed to win, so I think that's where the disappointment comes from. The biggest embarrassment. The Panthers, I don't know. I thought could have maybe won. I thought it would have been scrappy. Somebody predicted that the score would be 9-5 when they first picked, which is diabolical. 5 points to ever predict. You need a safety for that. Like, shut up, bro. Don't say that to me. Instead, the Panthers walked out and lost 47-10. Bryce Young, as much as I want to like this guy, did really check all the boxes on the what are the worst possible ways Bryce Young could play football. What ways could the Panthers be wrong about Bryce Young? Bryce Young hit all of those in this game. A little slow on the run, not super athletic, bad throwing when he was open, bad throwing when he was under pressure. Defense got worse. That was shown. Even the guys who were still there that should be good weren't that good. Clowney didn't look that good. J.C. Horn got cooked by Derek Carr and then went on to Twitter to let us know that he did not get cooked by Derek Carr. Unfortunately, whether the touchdowns were directly on him or not, we lost 47-10. So
right.
I like J.C. Horn, but that's a tough one. So it's not the biggest disappointment of the week, and we have two other disappointments that we'll get to that are super brief. But this one, as a Panthers fan, is like what little hope I think I had about the season to play our divisional rival like this is just like, all right, well, back it up. See you guys in 17 games. See where we're at then. Hopefully trying to get better, but it seems like no matter what we do, we something goes wrong. And right now, it just looks like Bryce Young and all of our players need to get it together. Maybe it was week one jitters, and then a good defense put us in a bad hole. But I will never give up on the Panthers. I will always be a supporter. But man, it is really, really tough to cheer for this team.
No, I'll be supporting, but I've given up a long time ago. I mean, frankly, I don't know if I really care too much anymore. Like I said, I was watching Red Zone that first window, and for the first touchdown to be like a 50-yard TD, Derek Carr just bombed over our defense like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Like 2.5 minutes into the game, it's like, what were y'all doing all offseason? I mean, you said it, Bryce Young. Again, I like Bryce. I'm glad at the time, we traded to take him. I don't know how much I'll be happy about that pick anymore, but I liked it. And he did absolutely check every box of saying, hey, we should have not picked you. I mean, he's just flustered, throwing picks, and this crap that we saw a little bit last year. Same thing this year. And the defense, I mean, you allow 50 points in a game. And I know, obviously, interceptions here and there, turnovers, but 50 points, really? Um, and the Saints, obviously, the Saints have good players. I mean, you have Derek Carr over there. You've got a team. It's just like the last how many years since Drew Brees retired, they haven't been that good. But if you're going to sit here and tell me that the Saints, 47-10 good, like, I don't know. I think that it's the Saints are good, and I think it's just the Panthers are just that bad. Um, so hopefully we don't really have to talk about the Panthers anymore for the rest of the season after this one. Yeah, I mean, if they're going to lose anyway, hopefully it's not nothing historic like Broncos Dolphins last year or something like this every single game. But yeah, besides that, I don't want to talk about it no more. So last couple games, not really disappointing in terms of who we thought would have won because Dolphins Jags, I would have probably picked Dolphins if we had picked this one. It's more because the Jags ended up crumbling. They had a 17-7 lead, 14-0 lead. And then Tyreek Hill, who, we didn't do a whole segment on what happened with him. The cops lost their mind right before the game, obviously. And he did the celebration. I swear, like, that's insane. He did the celebration with the hands behind his back and everything. But they came alive later in the game. They ended up pulling that one out. So it's more about the Jags, once again, kind of choking, being disappointing. And in the Titans, you let a Bears team who I know they had some injuries. Rome, he got injured. But you let a team that has a lot of offensive weapons now. You basically let them do nothing on offense, and you still lose. You still lose because of special teams and defense. So for Titans, again, not like I expected much from them. Disappointing in that sense.
Yeah, I think that like the Jags Dolphins, I would have picked the Dolphins is pretty. I think that's a good game. It was a good game, but I would have expected more of a shootout style game. Not that the Jags like pull out a cartoon sized hammer and smack the Dolphins, and the Dolphins pull out a bigger one and smack them back. That's essentially what happened. Like it wasn't a like competitive game at the same time. It was like the Jags are here, we're gonna play football. All right, we're done. And the Dolphins were like, oh, that's right, we should try to play it. And then they scored not 20 unanswered, but 20 and won the game. Jason Sanders missed a big field goal earlier on and then hit the game winner. So, whatever. Titans is also like, I don't know, maybe I would have picked the Titans just because of the media gets you, and they're like, no number one pick has won in 22 years since David Carr, which is, that's done now. That's over. Has won their opening game. Sorry, has won it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I would have maybe picked the Titans just based on like their defense and their offense being a little more gelled. The Bears have a great offense and a lot of weapons. They didn't do anything with them in this game, but they have a good offense. I just thought it might take some time to gel, and it will. However, the Titans just like scored 17 points, went up 17-0, and then something changed in the air, and they were like, nah, I think we're going to start throwing picks. Threw a pick six. Will Levis was on his knees with his hands on his head. That picture is going to be seen all season this year, I'm sure. He was knocked down as he was throwing, so he just didn't get back up to go chase the guy, which, like, I understand. But but just to rise up to your knees and put your hands on your head, just stay down, bro. You don't have to do that. And then they had a blocked punt by Simone Biles' husband, Jonathan Owens, which he blocked, like, obviously at the punt, so right there, just
Did
picked
you
up
really
and
just
walked
do
his hands
that?
in. Yeah, I'm joking. Jonathan Owens is a good defender, and put that on display to block that punt. That's a hard play to make. But he takes it in for a touchdown, and then I think Cairo Santos is their kicker right now. He does the rest. So disappointing day for the Bears offense, but they come out with a 24-17 win in which they started down 17-0. That's more disappointing for the Titans. Impressive for the Bears, but not a lot of offense going on there. I think that we'll see more strides from them as they start to gel together. But yeah, Jonathan Owens, and I can't remember which defender picked off Will Levis, the heroes of that day, and Cairo Santos. Will Levis, I'm so sorry for what the season's going to be for you with that picture in the air, but did that to yourself.